Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Welcome into the Computer America Show. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome into another edition of the program as we get things kicked off here. I hope everyone out there is having a great day. And, you know, you can shake off the, I know that a lot of people out there, Computer America included, of course, had the first 2 days of the week off. Happy 4th of July to everyone, and a belated one at that. But I hope everyone is getting back to work, getting back in the swing of things with all their fingers and toes attached, and no severe burn marks included. And welcome into Computer America. I am your host, Ben Crossman, and I think a good place to start before we jump into today's guest would be talking about ComputerAmerica.com. And, oh, by the way, and our guest is not joining us, so in just a moment, we will be talking with Mr. Mike Cermak himself. Yep, that's right. Owner and operator of TechGuy.org. Let's actually give him a call right now. And yeah, there we go. All right, so owner and operator of TechGuy.org, and an all-around just, a lot of fun to talk to. And we'll get to Mike in just a moment. But before we do that, we have a few things to go over, including ComputerAmerica.com. That is the one-stop shop to everything Computer America related. So if you are driving, if you happen to be doing something, don't worry about it. Everything is included in today's show notes, so including links to our guest website, as well as any articles or videos or anything of that sort, all included in the show notes over at ComputerAmerica.com. The next thing is, of course, our live video stream. You can watch Computer America, not just listen, and it's just another way to experience the show. We try to keep it all radio, listener friendly, but at the same time, it's also a lot of fun to be able to do all the things that we can with the video effects. And the last thing would be our social media contest, which we have another winner. That's right, that we will announce this Friday on the show live on the air. And it's always a lot of fun, brought to you by Logitech, giving away a great mouse and all that good stuff. So, yeah, and with all that said, I think we're just going to jump right in because we have a number of articles and a number of stories that I really want to get to because, that's what happens when you take a couple days off. It's you kind of fall behind on the news and the current events and the big things. So here to help us break that down, always, again, first Wednesday of every single month, Mike Cermak, and owner and operator of TechGuy.org. TechGuy.org, great website if you have any kind of questions or if you just want to, talk with like-minded people, maybe help some people out. And Mike, can you hear me?
I sure can. How are you doing today?
Doing well. You're coming in crystal clear. This is good.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. Sorry about my last-minute emergency, but I'm very happy to be here. I'm having just a wonderful day. I hope you had a great 4th.
Absolutely, yeah. Did not lose any fingers, and only spent about 3 hours calming the dogs down. So it was good.
Oh dear. Well, and we only, we're stuck in traffic for about 20 minutes. So that's actually a low record for us, And whenever you go see fireworks, half of the fun is just sitting in the traffic afterwards.
Of course. And actually, speaking about fireworks, I know that it's one of those things that, with the advent of social media, everyone thinks that their fireworks are the most interesting thing in the world, and everyone videotapes it, everyone takes a video, everyone puts on social media, and they're like, check out these fireworks displays, and it's just one of thousands of videos, and sometimes thousands of videos of the same firework display.
Right.
So my question to you, Mike, is first, did you take a video? And second, have you seen any that really caught your eye or any that really stood out as a good fireworks video this year?
No, I haven't really gone out and watched a lot of other videos. I did not take a video because I'm not that lame, but I did take a couple of pictures because my wife was sitting in the lawn chair in front of me holding our 9-month-old watching his first fireworks,
Aw.
and it was just a adorable picture that I barely was able to capture with my phone's camera, but it was still, good enough for me. But while I'm sitting there, in the lawn chair watching these fireworks in front of me, I get several alerts from Facebook of other people who are streaming videos live, the Facebook Live,
Yeah.
and it doing exactly as you're saying. So I'm like, oh, look, I can view the fireworks from any number of different angles right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to try something. So I know I just said that we try to keep the show radio friendly, but we're going to put this in the show notes, and let's see if we can actually share the screen with you, and I should be able to right here. So yeah, this is a time lapse that someone took of Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And and like there aren't that many fireworks videos that I really feel like sharing because again, things explode. It's just what they do. But but like this video, and I think the video of the drone flying through the fireworks display in West Palm Beach, Florida, are it's just sometimes some videos are really really cool. And again, if you're watching the video portion and you can see this, someone took a time lapse of Los Angeles. Yeah, this is the middle of a city. I think that's kind of what makes it so surprising. And fireworks are going off everywhere. It's crazy and actually really really cool to look at.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and very, very cool to look at.
And every one of those permitted, right?
Absolutely. No restrictions there. And did not scare any birds, and no one was harmed in the making of this GIF. But that is what we tell ourselves. But no,
it almost looks
cool.
fake.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it's but I think it's the steadiness of course, obviously a fixed camera and a nice time lapse of over a couple hours. And what's also cool, I mean, if you look up into the sky, of the GIF, I know it's not the most exciting part, but you can see, planes and contrails kind of going.
Totally can.
So
follow the same path over to the airport.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
It's so that was the only that, and folks, again, there were probably tens of thousands of fireworks displays captured yesterday. This is the only one I really care about. So, please, I'm sure yours was amazing. I'm sure the finale was awesome.
Please send them all to Ben.
Goodness no, goodness no. So, all right. So that's that, and so yeah, Mike, welcome back on the show. I know it's been a couple weeks, and happy to have you back on. So why don't we start with one of your stories, because you have a couple picked out, and all very interesting. I'll let you decide where we start off.
Oh heck, gee, where to begin? I'm going to start with Kaspersky. How about that?
Sure.
So this is a little bit of a controversial thing, and I don't know if you've mentioned this issue. It's been kind of an on and off issue for a couple of weeks now, and the problem is, so there's some people who don't trust Kaspersky antivirus. For those who don't know, Kaspersky is one of the top 10, probably one of the top 5 antiviruses out there, with Norton and McAfee and AVG and some of the others. Kaspersky is way up there as one of the leading antivirus programs out there, and one that I have on several of my computers. But suddenly they're being distrusted by a lot of people, including even some of our senators, because the people who founded it were Russian.
Right.
And which kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So the article goes on here, says that U.S. senators seek a military ban on Kaspersky Lab products. So because it's may have some Russian connections to it, being that the people who originally made it were Russian, we can't trust this product is what it comes down to. And I'm not exactly buying that. And I've had a couple conversations with other people in the IT world about this, and there's really mixed feelings on it. I've talked to several people who are adamant that that there's a possibility that Kaspersky could have Russian government ties, and therefore could possibly one day be used for nefarious reasons to be able to connect into American computers. And it's like, well, yeah, that's possible, but anything is possible. Like, there's not been any evidence of such a thing. Like, it just seems ridiculous to me. It's like saying, that if you were in the Russian government saying, we can't use Microsoft Office because Microsoft is an American company. Like, the American government could be using Office to connect. Like, well, yeah, they could, but I'm not a big fan of these, anything's possible things. I
Right.
want to see some evidence.
And it's funny because you link to obviously a post on your on techguide.org, which then linked to an article from 2015, March of 2015, so over 2 years ago. And it's funny that something like this, it was kind of trickling out. It was kind of just under the surface. Like the only people that really cared about it were security professionals. And now that, of course, politics aside, Russia and the United States and Russia meddling, Russia hacking, blah blah blah. Like it's now that people care. I mean, it's not like there hasn't been any evidence of maybe possibilities of Russian interference in these kinds of things. It's just now people are caring. It to me it just seems weird that it's an issue today, but it was also an issue 3 years ago, and we're just now getting around to it. I did hear another story, and this was a little bit more recent, and I can't remember. All the articles I'm finding were like from 3 days ago. I could have sworn it was up to a week ago, but Kaspersky Lab, which obviously runs, which is obviously the one that runs the software and the antivirus whatnot, they actually offered up their source code to the U.S. government so that they could prove that there weren't any kind of backdoors or Russian, go to Moscow lines or whatever. I think Kaspersky is doing as much as they can, but as long as they have a Russian name, Kaspersky,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to be able to get over this too easily.
If only they'd been called Smith Antivirus, then we wouldn't have any problems. But Kaspersky sounds so scary.
Right. Well, we're not pointing the finger at at McAfee because they're Scottish. Who cares? But Kaspersky.
And that's just it. Exactly. It's like, and they say in here that the Senate is trying to prevent their software platform from being used for U.S. Department of Defense or government use because, quote, it might be vulnerable to Russian government influence. It's like, well. But where's the? I mean, I don't see why it's any more likely that Kaspersky is going to let the Russian government use it than McAfee is. I mean, I would propose it's possible that any antivirus company, could have billions of dollars thrown at them in to allow a little hack to be in there. Not even if the company doesn't approve it, some programmer at a lower level could be bought out and they could have a feature in their software without even knowing it. But why would we single them out just to assume that they're more likely to have that because they happen to be Russian? Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And they made a great statement on here on last Wednesday. The company said, quote, Kaspersky Lab believes that it's completely unacceptable that the company is being unjustly accused without any evidence to back up these false allegations. It says that in its 20-year history, the company has abided by, quote, the highest ethical business practices. And I believe that's true. I've used their software for a long time. I like AVG and a lot of the other ones as well. Don't get me wrong, but I've never had a problem with Kaspersky, and I've never heard any evidence or suggestion that there's anything going on there that would make them any less safe than any other antivirus out there. It just seems like a big scare tactic to me.
Yeah.
It feels almost like the whole, I don't know. It feels like a witch hunt. It's just.
And I'm going to look up, and you might know off the top of your head better than I would, but the benchmarking for antivirus and the company that runs that, I mean, it's totally third party. It's not like one company says we're the best and everyone believes it. They have third party, antivirus comparatives and antivirus testing. And Kaspersky, like you said, is one of the top 4. They rank, sometimes they're the highest this month. Next month, they're, second or third place. Yeah, you're right. Nothing other than the fact that they're Kaspersky. And I think this probably has more to do with politics than it does technology, which so much does nowadays. It's just that.
But it shouldn't, darn it. We shouldn't let politics get into this beautiful little, IT world we've built here. Like, I mean, obviously it gets into everything, but it just makes me sad when it does.
I think that Kaspersky is an old enough name, is a strong, is a solid enough company that you can kind of trust that they are going to, do what's best for their company, and what's best for their company is making sure that they have a secure product. Regardless, they know that if they put a backdoor, if they were somehow the super secret spies of the Russian government, then they know that their product is toast and that their company is toast, and they wouldn't have just a couple days ago offered up their source code to the U.S. government. They're
Right.
doing everything they can. It's
Right.
us.
Well,
It's up to us to dispel this myth.
I think that's what it is, really. I think you're exactly right, Ben. And it's just, I hate judging people without good reason. You can imagine the tables being turned that, like I said, people not wanting to use a Microsoft product or a Google product or something because they think that, the American government is trying to hack into Russian computers through it. And, it's just like, you can't trust, this company because they're an American company, and look at what their government is doing. It's like, well, the people are different than the government. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
anyhow.
So and again, there's not much proof here. Of course, you are
I
probably
don't think
going to
there's
see.
any proof. I think it's completely fabricated.
The only proof is that they are Russian based, they are Russian owned, and they are under the Russian government. And everyone, and like, again, the second Cold War, let's face it, is starting to percolate. And
Right.
look back at the first Cold War. There probably wasn't a lot of truths going around. There was a lot more propaganda than there were actual news stories. Hey,
Have we learned nothing?
we have not. We have the internet at our fingertips, and we don't know anything.
We're even better at spreading myths now.
Absolutely. So
much better than we were back then.
So
Look at how far
Kaspersky,
we've come.
I know we're so much better at, but Kaspersky, it's good to hear that you would not advocate against them. I wouldn't either. Like you said, nothing to point the finger at them. And yeah, it's not like they're accused of something and they're clamming up. They are actively trying to fight this, and this is obviously going to look bad. I should honestly try to get them on the company on the show if I can.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and talk about this.
And you need to flat out ask them, say, "Are you a Russian spy?"
Absolutely, and in a thick Russian accent, they would go, "No, no, 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 of course not." And everything will go away, and everything will be red as rain. I assure you.
And then he'll say, "Are you an American spy?"
It's like, well, of course.
Because you're an American, you can't trust you.
Exactly.
Anyhow, that really got under my skin.
No.
I was
Glad
really
you brought it
bothered
up.
by that.
Glad you brought it up, and again, the funny thing is that you sent us the link to a thread on techguy.org. Everyone, go check it out. Great forum. But this was a thread made almost 12 months ago about a story ran almost 3 years ago, and Neil,
well, and the reason
it's coming up once again. No, like it's completely relevant.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reason I sent you that was because it's got several links to different articles in it, and I was like, I was going to send you this one or that one. I was like, I'll just send them the whole
Right.
thread. It's just there were several. There's been so many articles about this exact story, and I'm like, man, it just won't die.
Right. So yeah, it's
But now we've settled it.
Yeah,
there, so.
we have settled the case. It is dead. It is buried, and
We prevented the
Kaspersky,
next Cold War.
Exactly. Wow, we are heroes. July 5th, July 4th, big deal. July 5th, bigger deal now. Thank you, Computer America.
We need some fireworks.
Exactly. So,
someone send Ben some videos of fireworks so he can celebrate.
I thought you were about to say send Ben some fireworks. Like, do not send Computer America explosives. That's the last thing you should do. But with that being said, why don't we jump to you had it on here. I didn't even read all of them. So actually, let's jump to, speaking of security, so security to security, and we can talk about, of course, the optics. We talk about the optics of what Kaspersky looks like and that kind of thing. But I think Google is doing something that looks good on the surface, but obviously has the end goal of being a net gain in profits for the company. But Gmail, Mike, I mean, obviously I use Gmail.
I've got a Gmail account.
You have a Gmail account. I think everyone on Earth at this point has one. It's a great service, but why don't you talk real quick about the story about them no longer scanning emails, and really wasn't that the biggest, kind of reservation that a lot of people had about using Gmail?
That's exactly right, and I think we've mentioned this before. I've given that as a comparison on a lot of things. But when Gmail first came out in 2004, hard to imagine. It's over 13 years ago when Gmail came out. I must be getting old. But when Gmail first came out, that was their deal. They were going to give you tons of free storage, a really good, secure, reliable email service for free. But the deal was, in exchange, they were going to show you advertisements on the site, which was not unusual because, Hotmail and Yahoo Mail and all of those did the same thing. But what was unusual about Gmail is that they were going to have their system read through your emails to be able to show you relevant ads. So if you were sending emails about buying a new car, all of a sudden you'd be seeing advertisements, in your mail client for new cars. And people went crazy about this. This is a whole big privacy thing. People were saying that no one will ever use Gmail, that it won't be widely adopted because of these privacy issues. No one wants to have their emails read for advertising uses. And as we all know today, no one uses Gmail as a result.
Of course not.
But people just accepted that. They decided that's a fair trade. I'm going to get more relevant ads. You're going to give me a great email service that's reliable and fast and tons of free storage. And it's not like a guy back in the Googleplex is sitting there reading through my personal emails. It's some computer looking for a keyword. I don't care. It's so and personally, I like having relevant ads. If you're going to show me an advertisement to support a service, I'd rather have it be an ad for something I care about than something I don't.
It has freaked people out, I think, to the extent that Google has perfected the art of giving you a pointed ad. In that,
Right.
My own dear mother, she uses Gmail and all that good stuff, but she Googled something as simple as these kinds of blackout shades, for Windows and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
because
Sure.
we hate the light. The light is awful. But she received ads in Gmail about, popping up everywhere. It's like, hey, check out these ads. Like her life for the next 5 days on her computer was, perpetrated by ads for blinds and curtains and shades. So I think were a little put off, but at the same time, you obviously make the very good point that it's not directed by a person. It's totally automated. It's like, it's, if you feel your privacy is violated, then, obviously you feel violated when, you sit down at your computer and do anything. It's
Right.
just automated.
Well, and most of the ad systems have ad choice, which is a system that Google abides by as well. You can go in there and you can set different privacy settings to it and how much they can track you and things like that. And I know people who have, cookie blockers and ad blockers and all of that. And I could talk about that for ages as well. I'm not a big fan of ad blockers because that's how these sites provide the service for free, whether you're talking about Gmail or
You
Google
say
search
that.
or
You say that, but at the same time, we're talking about a story right now. Anyone just joining us, Gmail taking out ads out of its service, or at least not. I'm sorry. I don't think they said they're taking ads out. I think they just said
No, I
they
don't
weren't
think so.
going to.
They're not going to scan the emails
Right.
anymore for ads for
Right.
keywords in order. So the ads that you're going to see are no longer going to be based on your emails. And I would suspect that's probably been the case for some time because, as you were just saying, Google has become so good at giving you relevant ads everywhere else. They probably don't even need that extra input of your Gmail messages because they already know everything you've been searching for and a bunch of the websites you've visited. And I mean, we all know, after you've gone shopping for shoes, the next week you're going to have ads for shoes on every website you go to.
Right.
I mean, they're even not using anything from your email, so they're really good at that already. But yeah, so so I don't think this is a big deal at all. But some people who are really upset about the idea of Google Computer reading their emails might be a little bit more satisfied about it. Oh, you were going to say something else about the free web. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Right. No. And it's just that Google, of course, they are very good at what they do. Like you mentioned, they have other sources that they can pull from, and I think it's really gotten to that point where they don't need your emails anymore. In fact, your emails are probably so convoluted and so not really what you're interested in. If someone sends you a link to a boat, they may be interested in a boat, but you don't give two darns about a boat. And and all of a sudden you're seeing ads for boats. Like maybe Google just thought it probably wasn't worth the trade-off. And in fact, that the article that you linked to and a few others that I've checked out, it's that it was more again, speaking of how things look to the general public, the fact that they look like they are spying on your email was worse than any kind of information, no matter how valuable, they could pull from your email. So, and this was actually leading to a loss in, large corporate deals and, corporations using Gmail was because, they thought that as long as you paid for Gmail, they never read your emails. They did not do anything to compromise that, but they thought that, it was so, if you use Gmail, your emails are looked at. So they're just stopping it for everyone so that they can hopefully wrangle in large corporate contracts, with their paid service. So, I mean,
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah,
I think it really came down to it that it just wasn't worth their trouble anymore. They have all these other good metrics to be able to use to try and figure out what to show you that they probably didn't even find that useful. And like you said, it's probably more false positives than anything.
Right.
You start getting spam for something else, or it's hard to pull relevant keywords out of messages sometimes.
The point that I just made was the thing that the Google executive, she was like the executive, like corporate, sales or whatever. That was her reason for canceling this whole thing. She announced, Google will no longer be scanning emails. She said it was just hard. She was having a hard time explaining to paying customers that we don't look at your emails, and they look back at her and say, well, yes, you do, your Gmail. And so she's just like, instead of pulling her hair out, she said, all right, we're not going to read anything. Like that was one reason. And again, everything that we've said before, also another reason.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. And I going way back to the beginning, I remember when Gmail launched, I didn't even hear about any of that, but I was, I don't know if this makes me a nerd or not, but like I remember back in 2004, I was in like 6th or 7th grade. My friend somehow knew a guy, that his dad knew, and he was able to get one of those limited beta releases, back in the early part of 2004.
Invite.
Yes, it was invite only for the longest time.
Right.
And I got invited, and Gmail, it was so cool because the G stood for gig. You got 1 gig of storage. Everyone else had very, very lackluster storage compared to Gmail. And
Right.
ever since then, Gmail has just been so dominant. And this can only be a good thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all, and I don't think Google is either. I just sent you a link there. Another story that I almost sent into you earlier is that Google and Facebook now make more from ads than every newspaper, magazine, and radio network in the world combined.
I
which is
believe it.
which is crazy. I mean, just last year, Google made $80 billion from ads. So, I mean, they know how to do relevant ads. They know how to give you ads that you're, are going to be interested in. And I mean, $80 billion of ad revenue from Google alone.
This is something that we're going to be talking about, why these companies are so much for an open and free internet. This is something that we're going to talk about next week, of course, because for anyone out there not paying attention, there will be a worldwide day of protest, July 12th. So if you're wondering why there's messages everywhere on some of your favorite sites, that is why. It's a protest. But internet has way more availability than internet has way more availability than radio, than television, than anything else. I mean, it's just so easy to get access to. There's so many resources. And, there's a lot of places to put ads that get a lot of attention. So I get it. It's only going to get, I don't want to say it's going to get worse, but it's only going to continue. I mean, you said that you hate ad blockers just a minute ago, Mike.
I did.
And at the same time, I think last month we talked about with you the fact that Google Chrome is going to be coming with ad block software installed, with Google Chrome, like natively. So,
right. Although limited ad blocking. They're going to
Limited.
block the egregious ads, which in a sense I think may help things, because if you block the people who are abusive about that do the pop-ups and the automatic playing audio and the stuff people hate, then I think they're less likely to go out there and then block the quote unquote good ads.
right.
So that may be benefit to everyone. But the trouble is, if everyone, I always like to live my life with the idea of, how would the world be if everyone did what I'm doing? If I throw trash out the window and everyone else threw trash out the window, it's not a world I want to live in. And so if I blocked ads and everyone else blocked ads, then we've got to pay for these services somehow. So, it's one of these things where it's a trade. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They need to pay bills. They need to, and of course I'm a little biased coming from, my site, which is
Of
free
course.
paid for by ads. I will admit that immediately. But same thing with your show. I mean, this is a wonderful radio show. You're providing a service. You're providing, great speakers here, with the exception of me today. And in exchange for that, they've got to listen to some ads. And that's just the way it works.
Right.
Otherwise they'd have to be paying you for it. And there's some systems where that works. There's people who do podcasts and so on a subscription basis or donations or whatever. There's other methods of doing this, but it comes down to there's got to be a trade there.
That is a great point. By the way, music means we're going to take a break, and a great time to mention that Computer America, for all of you premium sponsors out there, we will have a special segment coming up only for you. Everyone else, you will get car horns blaring. So, premium users, good show. Everyone else, awful noise. We'll be right back, Computer America, just after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And, oh my goodness, yeah, we are continuing on with Mr. Mike Cermak, techguy.org. Check it out. And yeah, we are, just wrapping up Google, Gmail, blah, blah, blah. Obviously there's a lot of, I think ads, and Google knows this, and, and things like this, that ads have become something of a pain point in the browsing experience, and Google is actively working on it. So, expect things to change, but not drastically, and hopefully for the better. Yep. So we have, going from security, and the second part, I know I sent you a couple links, and I didn't realize that you had already had this one in here. So we're going to talk about electric cars, and then, of course, our favorite electric car. So Volvo, to get things started here. Now, this is slightly misleading, and, in just how, and let me just stop this. I swear, autoplay videos can go right to heck. But, there we go. So, but
only a new version of Google Chrome would prevent that.
I know. Well, actually, it does. Good point. But that's right. So this one coming from CNN Money, and again, link in the show notes. But Volvo, they've been in some, hot water with their whole diesel and the Dieselgate, or whatever they call it nowadays. And the fact that they have not been purely as environmentally conscious as I think they were trying to make themselves out to be. So what's the best way to fight, poor emissions or emissions evading tactics, and, causing untold harm to the environment by selling vehicles that were, spewing out much, much more greenhouse gases than were previously said? Well, electric cars. And really, this is something that the CEO of Volvo has credited Tesla with in making a market for electric vehicles, and I think it's here, and Volvo knows it. So you have the story here again, CNN Money. Volvo gas only cars are history after 2019, right around the corner.
That's exactly right. So beginning in 2019, which is right around the corner, I mean, it's in 2 years, less than 2 years, Volvo's no longer going to make any gas-only cars. They're going to make electric cars and hybrid cars, including plug-in hybrids, which I think is awesome. And I think they're going to be the first of many car companies to go this direction. And I think they are more eager than others just because they have had that bad press and a bad rep after that whole, diesel scandal. Mm-hmm. But it's the right thing to do. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more of it. And obviously, I think that in a short period of time, we're going to be seeing fewer and fewer even hybrid cars. It's going to be going fully electric. But they said they're going to launch 5 fully electric cars between 2019 and 2021, which is, even 2021 sounds far in the future, but that's 4 years from now. That is not that long, especially in terms of the production cycle of a car.
Right. Yeah, they still have to plan it, and 4 years, for the next 3 years, I'm sure these cars are already, they're already in production. They're already, being.
They're doing a lot of planning already.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2021, as soon as they could do it. I didn't know this, but it kind of makes sense because China is starting to own everything. But Volvo, I always think European. They say they're a Swedish automaker. They're Chinese owned. I will say, China, for what it is, they are putting such a heavy emphasis on renewable energy and, and trying to move away from a reliance of fossil fuels. Like, that just seems to be a very Chinese thing that is happening lately. Obviously, half their cities are choked with smog and pollution, but it's nice to see still.
Well, and that's exactly it. They feel the pain. They know how serious this problem is. There's not a whole lot of climate change deniers in China because they live with it every day. They go outside and they can see the smog and how awful the air is, and have warnings about don't breathe the air today. So they're much more eager to get into this environmental stuff and try and save the earth than we are over here, where the problem isn't quite as critical or as apparent to many of us.
Right.
So I think that they are going to be ahead of the game there, which is going to put us at a bit of a disadvantage if we don't continue to innovate. But at least someone's doing it.
Yeah,
and this is what we want. We want more and more companies building electric cars.
Absolutely. And I know that obviously we're going to talk about Tesla here in a moment, but did you ever have like a Nissan Leaf or Volt or anything like that before you went Tesla? I
had a Toyota Prius. And then after that, I had a Lexus hybrid. And then I went to the Tesla.
Now, and obviously, a hybrid is not the dream of having a fully electric car. Fully electric, with good range is obviously ideal, but not quite here yet for, I think, the masses. But how were your feelings on hybrid? Because this one says that no diesel-powered cars, but I'm sorry, gas-only cars. That was the headline. Right. A little sensational because they're still selling traditional gas cars. It's just they're going to have, electric motors that probably run, with batteries that run 40, 50 miles. So what are your feelings on those rather than just strict electric?
Well, I think in a lot of places it's hard to accept going all electric right now. We're certainly still in that middle ground where there's not a lot of charging. There's a lot of charging infrastructure. Most people underestimate that. You can go to websites like PlugShare and see where there are charging sites near you, and people are always shocked when I do that. And even in our little town, there's charging stations. But for a lot of people, the affordability of an all-electric car that can go a long range, if you want to be able to take it to the beach or to a vacation or whatever, big batteries are still pretty expensive until the gigafactory really starts getting up and running. So I think that's the only way to make it affordable right now. I don't have a problem with that. If you have a hybrid vehicle that can go 50 miles on electric before it switches to gas, then that means 95% of the time it's going to be running on electric, because most people don't drive 50 miles a day. Very rarely, a couple of times a year, most people would do that. So most of the time you're on electric, which is great. In the long run, I think it's really just a middle step, because in the long run, we're going to have all electric. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have all of that infrastructure in your vehicle to be able to do gas, because it's just so unreliable and so complicated that you have a much simpler system if you have all electric. You've got the battery and the electric motor, and that's about it. You don't have to have all of these other complicated things and all of these other moving parts and everything else that can go wrong in cars. It's just a much simpler system. And if you do a hybrid, though, you have both. So it's even more complicated and even more likely to have a problem on one side of the system or the other. I think long run, electric makes a lot of sense. But in the meantime, as a middle ground, I think hybrid, is the cheap way to go and be able to get 95% efficiency out of it until we can go the whole way.
Right. And it's certainly one of those things that I think the public has come to accept that that electric cars does not mean dinky or low powered or
Right.
just kind of silly cars.
And that was the view for the longest time. Benjamin, you wouldn't believe how many people, even still today, when I tell them I have an electric car, they ask me these crazy questions like, can you get on the highway with it? How fast can it go? How far can it, it's like,
People
well, yes,
couldn't people
I can get
couldn't
on the
say
highway. It's not a problem.
people couldn't say the word Prius and keep a straight face. They always
Right.
had that slight Prius. It was condescending almost.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I often joke about that. I'll be out in the parking lot and people would be asking me about my car, about my Tesla, and that never happens when I had the Prius.
Mm-hmm.
People really weren't interested in the Prius.
Do you ever go and be like, oh, wow, is that a Tesla? How is it? And do you ever go, well, it's no Prius? I mean, it's kind of one of those things.
I really miss having to buy gas.
Yeah, but no, it's electric cars. They're certainly here to stay, and Volvo knows it. Volvo, and I think we're both right that they went through that whole evading emission standards, and they're looking for something that puts them in a positive light in terms of gas and emissions and things like that.
The future, and I think they realize this is going to be the future. And
sure.
Sure, it's a little risky trying to make that jump right now, but I think Tesla has proved that there's a market for it, that people are willing to accept this, and Tesla's done a great job of breaking all those what's the word I'm looking for? The misconceptions, that people have about them. That people always thought that electric cars have to be little and ugly and can't go far and can't go fast, and Tesla's shown they can look cool, they can go far, they can go fast. So people are becoming more and more accepting these. So I think it's a good time for Volvo to do this, and I think the only reason they're taking that risk is because they have to try and save face and stay relevant. And it's a good way to do it. I think we're going to see a lot of other car companies slowly go that same direction.
No doubt in my mind. And in fact, I think China is obviously. It's so weird to think about, the United States and we're America. Heck, we're computer America. We're not computer China, but. America has been the center of so much economic growth that, if you wanted to be a successful car company, whatever sold well in America was, kind of the best car company in the world. I think China's at the point where they're looking to, they have a middle class, they're coming up, looking to buy cars. I mean, even Tesla, an American company, is looking to expand even larger into China because they know that people want their cars over there as well. So, China, I think, is really pushing this more than America. I mean, Americans, I love you guys, but at the same time, they see gas go down to $2 a gallon, and they go, maybe I can't afford that giant SUV or that giant pickup truck, and they kind of say, forget electric cars, who needs those?
Hummer.
But then when gas goes up to $5 a gallon, they're like, man, I wish everything was electric. It's one of those things. So it's but speaking of Tesla. You have another story here, and this is Elon Musk. He's been kind of acting not really squirrely, but he's been acting very sentimental, which you don't really expect from CEOs and things like that. And he just sent out a tweet the other day. It was something like, everyone who pre-ordered a Tesla or invested in Tesla, thank you. You will not be forgotten. And it was like the kind of message that you send out right before you take over the galaxy and you start your new hegemony. So yeah, but yeah. So Tesla, what's the story you have?
Yeah. So and you even mentioned it was a perfect segue in the last story that electric cars aren't really ready for the masses. They're just too expensive right now. And of course, Tesla's trying to stop that as well. They're trying to. I mean, Elon Musk, let's face it, is just trying to save the world for us. We're trying to destroy it, and he's doing his best to try and save humanity, whether it means putting people on Mars or creating a sustainable vehicle system.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's just announced is that the Tesla Model 3s, which are the smaller sedans that are going to start at $35,000, they're going to start delivering them on Friday. So in just a couple of days, a handful of people are going to start getting the first Model 3s rolling off the line.
But here's the big question. But here's the big question. Only how long after, or how many delays were there between the promised and the now Friday? Because Tesla never arrives on time.
never arrives on time, especially the Model X. I mean, Tesla got a bad rap for Model X, the SUV, because it was delayed and then delayed and then delayed. And there were people who, received their Model X 2 years past the expected date that they were, expected to receive it. It was a major issue, and Elon's even gone so far to say that they've made some major mistakes in the design of the Model X by making it so complicated and adding all of these extra features to it. And they say that they've learned from this and they've tried to make the Model 3 much, much simpler in terms of how it's produced and built. And I mean, time will tell how well this goes. And they're planning on ramping up production pretty slowly. They're hoping by the end of the year to be making, I think it was, trying to find my numbers now.
Mhm.
I think it was 2,000 a month by the end of the year, 20,000 per month. Okay, good. By December, it's $20,000 units a month, and by September, it'll be 1,500 units per month. So, but which is not a whole lot of cars, especially if you look at other major manufacturers. But then they're hoping to, of course, continue to ramp that up into next year. If you put a reservation down for a new Model 3 today, you're not expected to get it until 2019, when the Volvos start coming out. So,
Yeah.
so they've got a long list. I think they've got, what, 400,000 people or 350,000 people who've pre-ordered the Model 3, put down a couple $1,000s to be able to get one.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, you even mentioned this when when you were looking at I believe it was the Model X, where the barrier to pre-ordering isn't so high that you can't just pre-order now and then think on it, and then maybe if
Right.
you don't want it, cancel it.
Well, and the nice thing that Tesla does is that it's completely refundable. But you're right. As a result of that, that may artificially inflate the numbers. So for the Model 3, I think it was only $1,000 that you had to put down in order to have a reservation for one.
Right.
And so I did that. And I know a lot of other people who did that. And I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to get a Model 3. Or if I do, I'm probably going to wait until the four-wheel drive model comes out next year. But I can cancel that at any time before I actually configure the options I want and get that money back. So that is a real question. How many of those 400,000 people are actually going to go through with the process of buying
Right.
it? But
Right.
but I think that there's a market there for it. I mean, for an affordable. I mean, sure, people. I've talked to a lot of people who say $35,000 is still too much for a new car. I can't afford that. But you get it to that price point, and then there's going to be more and more competition from Volvo and Volt and all the other manufacturers, Leaf and so on, and they're going to continue to drive the price down as more and more of these type of vehicles come out. And then there's going to be a used car market for these in another 3, 4, 5 years, and you're going to be
I
able to buy a used Model 3 for 20 grand in a couple of years. I mean, that's just
Right. I don't want to say that they've hit the perfect price point of being able to compete with every car company. They still haven't hit the 15, the 20,000s that that sell like hotcakes. But
right.
at least I don't think anyone would call the Model 3 a high end vehicle. I mean, high end.
It's not a luxury car.
Right.
I mean,
It's not $90,000.
right.
It's good mid range choice.
I think it really is for a brand new car. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable at all. And I think that a lot of people said it couldn't be done, and it'll be interesting to see in these next few months how the rollout goes, because that's going to be the make or break it for Tesla. I mean,
But the best salesperson in the world, Elon Musk, and I believe he's very smart. I think he is crazy gifted and all that good stuff. But I think above
Yep.
all, what he does best is he's a great salesman. And one of his best selling points, at least from a tech point of view, is enhanced autopilot, second generation, blah blah blah. That every
Right.
Model 3 and a lot of other cars, they're going to get better over time, not worse.
Right. Yep. That's absolutely right. And that's going to be exciting.
Hopefully
And when you
autopilot
look
comes
at
soon.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Hopefully, Autopilot 2 is going to be pretty amazing. But you look at these and try and differentiate them, because I talk to people and they say, "Well, what about the Volt that's coming out? What about this other car that's coming out?" And one of the biggest things is the technology. I mean, you look at the technology between the two different vehicles, and there's no comparison. I mean, even the Autopilot is huge, but even if you forget about that, all the other technology that's in it is so much further beyond anyone else's. And then the other thing that is often overlooked is the charging infrastructure. I mean, just today I had to drive to Baltimore and back to go to a doctor,
Mhm.
and there was no problem. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even have to plan it. On my way back, it lit up and said, "Hey, you ought to pull over to one of these superchargers that are along the way," and stopped for literally 10, 15 minutes, charged up, and was on my way. And if I was in any other electric car that's out there, it would have been much more complicated. I mean, there would have been far fewer charging options. They're not as reliable. It's, they've got an awesome, you know, infrastructure built up that no other car manufacturer has done. And there's been some discussion that Volvo may buy into the Tesla infrastructure, which I think would be the smart thing to do. Tesla has said they're open to that possibility. But someone needs to, if they're going to compete with electric cars, they need to build a similar infrastructure.
And I think the infrastructure, it doesn't even need to get to the point of gas stations where, let's face it, there's 3 gas stations on every 4-way intersection. I don't think it needs to get to that point. But if they could just put them, and hey, here's an idea. I heard that malls all over America are closing down because, hey, people aren't going to malls anymore. Thank you, online shopping. Thank you, Amazon. But if you could, just as many malls as there, I guess, used to be in America, those giant parking garages, those giant parking lots, put a couple, superchargers in each one of those, and I think you'd have more than enough infrastructure, to get these cars on the road. So very, very cool. Tesla, $37,000. I don't know if obviously a big part of electric vehicles were the tax credits, and I have not been keeping up on if those are still available or if they've been done away.
So those start to go away per manufacturer based on the number of vehicles they've delivered. So it's going to put Tesla at a bit of a disadvantage once they start delivering Model 3s in high numbers, because they're going to hit up against that limit and the tax credit slowly goes away. But as of right now, it is available for the Model 3s, and I think they're going to do everything they can to try and deliver them in such a manner that it makes that tax break as big as possible for the customers. But it will eventually go away for Tesla customers because they're delivering so many electric cars. And then that'll be a good advantage for someone else to get in there, like Volvo or someone else, to start selling more electric cars, because that tax break doesn't go away for everyone. It's per manufacturer.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So, just looking over the article that you also mentioned, Tesla, they've doubled their revenue. They doubled the revenue in the first quarter of this year. So obviously, I think they mean from last year. They're pulling in almost $3 billion, whereas they're still posting a loss. But again, the great salesman that Elon Musk is, I don't think anyone is looking at what Solar City, what the Gigafactory, what Tesla is doing and says, oh, no, that's not going anywhere. People have really high hopes for this. So, and I think we do too.
Yep, that's right. They're investing a lot of money into some pretty amazing technology, and if it pays off, it could really be a big deal. And I think it probably will.
It probably will. So, of course, Computer America does not give any kind of advice on stocks, what to buy, how to invest, or anything like that. So, this is all personal opinion. But for our last story, we have about 10 minutes here, Mike, and I don't know. I'll leave it up to you, because I know that we've talked about these digital assistants, these smart speakers on the show before. There's a new one coming from Samsung, Bixby, but at the same time, Bixby has a lot of problems. Namely, it's a Chinese product, and it's just not ready for English speakers. So we can talk about that and the idea of more smart speakers coming into the home, or we can talk about video games if you want to keep it light. And, well, I don't know, as light as legal battles get. And it's about GTA and modding and the and the legality of taking someone else's product and rewriting it, recoding it, doing stuff to it, and then claiming that you have any right to, or any kind of ownership over that product. So I'll leave it up to you. Smart speakers or games.
Let's get into gaming a little bit.
All right. So
I haven't been following this story very closely. You'll have to get me caught up a little bit.
So for anyone out there, there was a modding tool, and a mod is when you take a video game. It's been big for a lot of games. In fact, it's the reason that some games have such the staying power. I mean, looking at you, Skyrim. Skyrim was a game that came out 6 years ago, and thanks to the modding community, thanks to a lot of effort from just individuals or third parties, they give them tools to breathe new life into an old game. Because let's face it, a single video game lasting 6 years, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't make any sense. And another big one has been Grand Theft Auto 5. And the modding community has done a lot of things. I've seen so much as they even have, servers entirely populated. You know, they have like maybe 30 cops and like 1,000 people, and you can either play as a police officer and you go around and you role play arresting people, or you role play, you know, just kind of as an everyday person. And, you know, all these things are modifications made to the original game. So there was a very popular tool that you downloaded. It let you have access to a lot of these tools, and it was called it was called OpenIV. And the company behind GTA, the publisher, Take-Two Interactive, recently sent the modders a cease and desist letter. Now, the idea that you could mod the video game was what led a lot of people to buy Grand Theft Auto. So it's kind of one of those things. Do they really have a leg to stand on legally if they send a cease and desist letter to a community that is only making their game last longer, or at least adding value to the game, because hey, you have thousands of new possibilities thanks to OpenIV. So the modding community, they were obviously very, very angry. They took to websites. They gave the game bad reviews, 5 years after it was released. All these kinds of things. And they also surreptitiously, quietly continued to offer their modding tools. OpenIV reopened their modding tools without saying anything. So I guess I bring this up and kind of go to you, Mike, because this idea that you put something out, you publish it, and the masses like it. How much how much can you really claim by taking someone else's IP and going, well, I changed it a bit, made it better in in a lot of regards, but then they told us to stop.
Right. That's really hard. I don't know the technicals of the deal here. I mean, part of the license agreement for any software that you buy, and everyone knows this because everyone reads license agreements in full before they click I agree, but part of it is that you're agreeing not to reverse engineer it, that you're not going to go in there and try and get around their security or try to decrypt the source code or try to do those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, in order to do a mod for any kind of game, you need to some level do some reverse engineering, find out how things are done, how images are saved, so you can then replace them with your own images and so on. So technically, legally speaking, I suspect that they're quite right. You're going to be working against the license agreement. And this is kind of something that has been on and off, for example, even with iPhones, where we had the whole deal with jailbreaking. It was against the license agreement to jailbreak your phone. And then the courts eventually found that, well, it's your phone. You can do whatever you want. It can void your warranty, but you can do it if you want to. So it's kind of an interesting legal area.
Who really
of
owns
exactly how much can the user do?
Yeah, and this is an issue that we see come up with a number of companies, including Apple, mostly in forefront, is who really owns the product after you put down the money. If you put down $700 for an iPhone, and then Apple says, well, don't do that, it's your phone, and the courts have ruled that way. Same thing with GTA. I mean, they of course run online kind of things, but if you just want to play on someone else's servers with your $60 game, can they really tell you, no, don't download that patch, don't mod your game, even though you bought it, you're not playing on their servers or anything? And yeah, according to all the statements from lawyers and blah, 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 it says that they generally won't take action, but I think they're still going to go after some of the more high profile modding communities. So
well, and they need to draw the line somewhere, because obviously you don't want people abusing it. And for example, I know in the StarCraft, because I'm a nerd who used to play StarCraft, but in StarCraft 2, there was a major issue with cheating. A lot of people would download these map hack, cheats that would be able to go in there and allow you to have an upper hand against your enemy. And it took the fun out of it. You knew that half the people you were playing were hacking, and they fixed that to a very great extent. But it's the same in all online games. If people find ways of being able to reverse engineer it and then cheat. So you need to have some sort of limit that you don't want people doing that. But like you said, if they're doing it for fun on another server where it's not affecting the gameplay of the masses, or not giving them, but it's hard to draw that line. What can you do? What can't you do?
I think what made more the most people angry was the fact that they were so kind of wishy-washy, or that they
90 seconds.
many people actually bought this game assuming that you could mod it, that they will mod it, and that you could play the mods. And it's been going on for 5 years, and then all of a sudden, communities were taken down, companies were dethroned simply because, hey,
well,
you know.
And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, the idea, whether or not it's legal to do it, it's foolish for them to go out there and go against these communities that are supporting their game.
Right. And you know what? We'll have to leave it there. So, Mike, what's going on over at techguy.org? What are you up to?
Yeah, we're helping people left and right, virus problems, computer issues of all kinds, and even arguing about Kaspersky. So if you have any computer problems, you need any help, you can head over there, techguy.org, or I think there's a link on the Computer America website. And it's all free. We're supported by ads. If you don't use ad blockers, you can ask your question, and a volunteer will try and help you out with your computer problems.
That's right. So, and yeah, please check that out. And everyone else, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. It's been a lot of fun. Mike will be back next month, hopefully, right?
Absolutely. I'll be there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. And everyone, tune in tomorrow. We'll have another Computer America fresh for you. See you then. Bye-bye, everyone.
10 seconds.